Right. Now, in this video, we are going to look at the MVC structure of our given application. And before we do that, there's something we forgot from the previous video, and that is to create this file, which is called the git.ignore. So this is going to be git and then ignore. So what this file does is that this file will enable us to keep the files that we don't want Git to track for us. And this is for sensitive. That is, these files are case sensitive and we need to hide them so that Git cannot know about them. So one of them is the vendor, which we just created, as you can see. So you're going to have the vendor, and then the other one is VS Code. And then one thing you need to know is that I'm using GitHub Copilot for code suggestions so that I can code faster. So you just need to know that. So here we have node, and then this is tab, and then this is the node module. So we're going to have those three files. So the vendor, of course, you know, this is the directory, and then the node modules, of course, the ones that we are going to install as we continue building up our given application. All right, now let's start with the MVC structure of our given application. Now, looking at this is our given PHP MVC block structure, and this is how we are going to structure our given application. When you look at this one, you can see this is the directory name, and of course, from our application, we have already done that. So the next is having the app folder, and of course we created this one whereby I explained to you about the composer and auto loading. And then the next items we have is the controllers. So the controllers are going to be just under the app directory, as well as the modules and the views. Remember, since you are creating an MVC blog application, MVC basically means that this is modules, and then controllers, and then the views. Of course, the views are the ones which are going to contain the HTML, PHP templates, and then the models are the ones which are going to have the database structure, and where the database is going to be manipulated, that is from the models. And then, of course, the controllers are there to now that is to manipulate both the models and the views. Now, when you go down there, we can see we have the config file or the config directory, not the file. And this config directory, it's going to have the configuration files. And of course, this is the DB connection and any other app settings that you're going to have. And then down there, we have the public. So the public here is going to have public accessible files. Of course, these are public facing files, the ones which are going to be now rendered on our browser. Of course, within the public folder, we are going to have what we call the index.php, which is going to be the entry file for our given application. When you talk about entry file, we mean that this file is going to act as the front-end controller of our application. The other files that we need in our front-end controller is the CSS, JS, and the images, which are going to be rendered, of course, on the views. And of course, within now the browser, somebody can see the images and all that, as well as CSS and JS. Of course, and we have talked about the index.php, which is going to be within the public, which is going to be the front controller, which is going to bootstrap our given application. And you're going to know more about it as we are going to create it. We also have source folder, which can be used to add additional PHP classes or libraries that you may want to include within your app. Next, we have what we call the vendor, which is the directory. We have already created this one using the composer dump autoload. And of course, we know what this one does. Now we have composer.json. This file contains the configuration file, and of course, you have defined those files that is within this composer.json. So we are done with that. Another one which comes with the composer is the composer.log, which of course logs files to ensure consistent installs within our given application environment. And then the last one that we have created now, this is the git.ignore, which is specifying the files that we don't want them to be tracked. So that is going to be our MVC structure. So let me quickly go ahead and create this structure. You can go ahead and do so just the way you can see. So let me just go ahead and do this one quickly. All right, so these are the files that I've created, the files and the folders. And so far you can see within the app, I have the controllers, the models, the views, and of course they are just empty folders. Next, we have the folder, which is config, which is on the root. It's also empty, as well as now we have the public, which has the CSS folder, which is empty, as well as the images folder, the JS folder, and then the index.php, which is going to be the entry file or the front controller of our application. And then the rest of the files, such as composer.log, and then the other ones were there. Also the source folder is also on the root. So that's how you're going to structure your PHP MVC application. And then here you can just come and use the, as you can see here, we have we have this. So this is what we have. So you can use the mkdir app controllers, then the app models and the app views. That is mkdir is a command that you can use within your Windows to create a given controllers. Right. So let me meet you in the next video.